Over the years, Steven Spielberg has made a lot of sci-fi movies such as Close Encounters of the Third Kind and infamous E.T. movie. But the problem with this new movie, as opposed to those other movies, is that the movie does not really have a clear plan for what it wants to be. Is it a sci-fi action movie? Is it a sci-fi comedy movie? Is it a sci-fi drama movie? Or just a plain alien movie? The direction of this movie is far from clear-cut from this director that is now almost 80 years old, and we will talk about the good and the bad points regarding the movie today. If we start with the bad, you could say that the first bad point is that the movie feels too long, and it is hard to stay immersed for the whole ride. And in some of the other sci-fi movies that this director has on his roster, that is not the case. Because yes, we see some good moments, certainly, but we also certainly see some bad moments where you are bored and it is hard to stay invested into the movie. You want to lose yourself into the world building, and that is hard to do the way the movie is set up. A second problem with the movie is that it lacks context to the characters. Why were these two people, played by Josh O'Connor and Emily Blunt, chosen by the aliens instead of just having a little backstory at the end of the movie before the big finale when everything is revealed? This backstory, when they were abducted by the aliens, could be way longer, and it feels wrong that it comes at the end, because then you could either cut some of the chase scenes and make a longer backstory, because Kellner is chased by bad people trying to find him for almost the whole movie anyway, or either just cut it out entirely, but then you would of course not get any context. The point is anyway in this case that as opposed to movies like E.T. and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, you feel way less connection to these characters, and that is a real problem with the movie, when you cannot immerse yourself entirely into their feelings and objectives. If we now talk about some good points, I will praise the acting in this movie, because both Emily Blunt, Josh O'Connor, and Colin Firth certainly act very believable in this movie. Blunt as this stressed out weather lady that suddenly gains this ability where she can see what other people are going through or suddenly speak other languages. O'Connor as this man on the run from the government trying to get his secret files published because the people need to know the truth. And Colin Firth as this strange mind control guy trying to find Kellner in order to find a device and the files he needs. And he does this by scary mind control at this woman, making her hold a knife. Secondly, on the positive side, it also feels realistic in the way the government tries to stop this information from coming out about the aliens because people are not ready to hear the truth. How it then gets revealed to the public and the reaction from the news stations and reporters also feels highly realistic in a case where such a situation might unfold. And I feel it actually in a real scenario should happen the exact same way as in the movie. If we then again go back to where the movie fails to do things right, we need to talk about the explanation part. In some ways, this movie feels like Tenet because there we also saw a lot of action, but a lot of the events and actions of the characters were simply badly explained. You of course understand Josh O'Connor and Emily Blunt, how they were abducted by aliens at a young age, and how they gained the ability by looking at this red cardinal that seemingly was an alien in disguise, which perhaps for some reason decided to give them this special ability. You also understand how the government/military have experimented upon aliens, but not why they did it. Why the Colin Firth character can only use this device and be in two places at once on these people that have not been in contact with the aliens. Additionally, how this device really works. That seems to be some sort of mind control. That is a real miss in this movie because you want it to be explained properly regarding how that device works. Now this next segment regarding the movie can be both a bad thing and a good thing. But if we talk about the comedy, which especially relates to the Emily Blunt character, where she gets stressed and gets herself out of bad situations with her new ability, especially in the police officer situation, when she talks herself out of a ticket, some of those scenes are naturally funny. But there's also times in this movie where the comedy feels a bit forced, but I guess that really depends on your taste. Nevertheless, I feel the movie at times perhaps tries to make comic situations a bit too much, and then the movie feels a little bit less serious as opposed to a lot of other sci-fi movies. If we once again go back to the good stuff with the movie, I will say that the chase scenes in the movie, as the two main characters chosen by the aliens are chased in this car and they have to jump over to this train. Those scenes feel very dramatic, or when all these guys in the cars show up at the house trying to get Josh O'Connor and it crashes the car into the window of the house. Mumbling, what do I do? Those scenes are quite dramatic, but the movie also has important moments of reflections near the end with his Hugo character, which we now almost know nothing about, reflects together with the Colin Firth character, and they talk about the past and how he wants the truth to be told and Colin does not because he feels he has turned and used to be against telling the truth about the aliens. This happens with all the characters, but it is not a good extension of the movie. At least, it would have made sense if these reflections were made by the two main characters instead, but a lot of the time the movie simply does not allow that. Furthermore, on the bad side, the movie lacks tension. Of course, once again, if we mention Close Encounters of the Third Kind and E.T., but also in Tenet and Limitless, the tension is simply not there a lot of the time. Whether that is down to this director getting older, or that he simply tried too hard to make something different, or that he simply failed to think about the tension, is hard to grasp. But anyways, a last each comment I have to give in this case is that there is so much information, so much happening, so much to explain, that for the 2 hours and 15 minutes running time, it becomes too much, and this movie would actually work better as a show, because Spielberg here simply tried to bake too much into it. And the ending, with everything being revealed, is simply not a satisfying conclusion either, because we never know why the aliens contacted the two main characters, why did they choose them exactly, how this device works that Colin Firth uses, what is it really? Lastly, also, why did not Colin Firth and his men try harder to stop the truth from getting out? Because then they seem to have made all this massive chase effort for nothing. Anyways, guys, for me, this one is a 7 out of 10. I could have also talked about the message structure in the movie, but maybe that comes another day.